It's the start of the Irish League season, and it just seems like last season's not too long over. But I'm sure you enjoyed the break.
I did. I did. Although, mind you, still busy enough. All the preseason games and stuff like that. But no, it's good to have it back. The sun's shining, the sky's blue, and the Irish League's back. Happy days. Happy days. Sure, what else would be out on a Saturday afternoon?
I know I've just got married there, so I would definitely like to go out of the house on Saturday afternoon. Otherwise, I'll be sent shopping. And
Uh, yeah, definitely what I'd be up to on Saturday afternoon just to get out of all that crack. Yeah.
I suppose with Coleraine as well, my beloved, we didn't get Europe this year, so no nice European trips. But at least Linfield are cracking on rightly, and Crusaders had a good result as well. So the Irish League teams have done pretty well in Europe.
They have. Linfield, of course, still at this stage don't have a shout of making the group stages of the, well, I suppose of the Conference League, aren't they? So, yeah, I mean, it'd be great to see an Irish League team in there, just for the kudos it'll bring. But I suppose it'll bring more investment to the league as well, hopefully. So, fair play to David Heaton. He's done a great job there at Linfield. Sometimes the style of football mightn't be there everyone's liking. Certainly around Windsor Park, there might be a few fans who still have it in for, which he referenced at the end of last season. But you can't deny what he has done there. Is it 5 league titles he's won up there? So fantastic achievement. For someone who is a novice manager, I suppose at the end of the day, this is his first club in management. He's done a great job.
Yeah, of course he has. I think it's 5 league titles in 6 years or something. Incredible. And I suppose when you look at all the managers being touted for a move to England, it's surprised me a wee bit that he actually hasn't moved over the water. But I suppose with the league in general, last year the Irish Cup final was dramatic. The League Cup final was dramatic. The playoff final was dramatic. It was just a dramatic season. And what was your reflections of it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose at the start of the season we looked at it, and you look at the teams, the likes of your Linfields, Larnes, Glentorans, Cliftonville, I suppose as well. Those teams, the full time teams, you may as well say, well, Cliftonville obviously aren't full time, but those bigger teams, you fully expect them to be up in the top half, and that's exactly what happened. And I wasn't surprised at all. Linfield went on and won the league. Um, they seem to have, or last season, to have spent their money well and brought in good players. They do their business well, and again they've done it this preseason as well, by the looks of it as well. I think they'll be the team to beat again once again. But you know, Glentoran, the story of Glentoran was an interesting one as well. They got, one stage they were top of the league, and then all of a sudden they just dropped like a stone from there. Cliftonville, of course, flying the flag for the part-time teams, did very, very well. Unlucky not to get their hands on the Gibson Cup in the end, but yeah, it was an exciting season, really, really was. As you say, even the cup competition is going down to the wire. Fantastic stuff. I think both cup competitions went to extra time. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about the League Cup one,
Of course. Yeah.
but yeah, it did. And obviously the Irish Cup did as well. Ballymena conceded, was it twice, in the extra
That's
time
right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
always time of both normal time and an extra time. So that was a double whammy. And on the day they were by far the better team as well. So that's football. I suppose it's always out with the old and in with the new. And we'll probably go alphabetically and start with Ballymena United. And I think obviously they'll have eyes set in the top six finish. And how important do you think the arrivals of David McDaid and Sean O'Neill are to Ballymena?
McDaid, O'Neill, and I would also mention Jordan Gibson, who's a great signing for them. Jordan's a player I would like to have seen at Glenavon, my beloved Glenavon, of course. But just didn't happen. I don't know if there was any interest there at all from Glenavon, but a great player. Did very, very well at Carrick Rangers. They have been hampered, of course, by the loss of Leroy Miller as well, going to Larne. But I suppose if you look at the league, sort of almost divided into three now, and Ballymena would be in the middle. I suppose Coleraine, Glenavon, even Dungannon and Swifts are in that sort of middle mix as well. There's about three or four teams. Crusaders, I suppose, maybe as well. Even though they're not quite full time anymore, but they would be sort of in that sort of middle bracket of the teams who you'd be expecting to fight for maybe that last place, the last two places anyway, in the top six. So I think it'll be interesting. I think there's going to be a few interesting battles. In fact, the first game of the season sees Glenavon travel to Ballymena. So the outcome of that game already is going to be a very telling sort of result in how the season's going to pan out, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. I think David McDade and David Parkhouse up front is a fantastic forward line. It's arguably, obviously Cliftonville's great forward line and I'm feeling everyone else, but it's probably one of the best forward lines in the league as well. And if David can get them two hitting on all firing, they'll be going well. And I suppose another player that they've signed, and you'll probably know him better than me from your nearest and dearest, George Tipton. Obviously his dad played there as well. And what do you think he can bring to Ballymena?
You know what? I don't know is the honest answer. I mean, they've a very good midfield as it is, I think. Well, he had a lot to that team. I suppose it's hard to tell at this stage. But no, he was always highly rated at Portadown. Now, and I say that there was always a view that he was the manager's son, and that's why he got playing. From certain people outside. But I don't know if that was necessarily the case. I suppose time will tell. With what George can bring to Ballymena, so we'll keep an eye out on that one, I think.
Yeah, and we'll move on to Carrick Rangers, and they started last season on fire. I think they were nearly second or third at a stage, and then they couldn't buy a win after Christmas. And I suppose Stuart King will be looking to sort of again get a good start, but try and be a wee bit more consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, they started off really, really well last year. And they've signed some decent players as well this time around as well. Curtis Allen, who you'll know well. Ross Glendenning's come in. Andrew Mitchell, on loan from Larne. Cameron Stewart as well. He spent a bit of time at Glenavon. He can play in defence or up front. So yeah, they're a team who always give. Anytime I've seen them, always always put up a good fight. You never see them really get absolutely hammered that often, if you know what I mean. They're a decent outfit, and Sturdy King did have them playing some very, very good football at the start of last season. Whether it was a case of fatigue or what happened to them at the start of the end of the season, I'm not really quite sure. But Carrick certainly, they're a team who, you would expect them to be safe from relegation this year. Let's put it like that. Will they push into that sort of middle bracket to get into the top six? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, we'd probably agree with that. I think obviously Curtis will bring goals. He's always scored wherever he's been at. A fox in the box as he's always known. And I read something there about Stuart King in the paper there this week. You briefly mentioned their signings there, but they lacked probably experience in a few games. He said he mentioned in a game they lost 1-0. I think it was the Glenavon. I think they played really well, but Glenavon had players in maybe 300-400 Irish League appearances in their team, and that's probably the difference. And you can probably see why he's went to the likes of a Glendinning and a Mitchell and an Allen. They sort of help him out.
Absolutely. I think they'll be okay. They'll be fine. I think there's teams who we'll talk about later who probably need to be more worried about uh the drop than what Carrick do anyway. But one of the teams who sort of pushed on last year, we already mentioned, the challenge for the title, were very, very lucky was Cliftonville. And again, they've made some very, very good signings. What do you reckon, Johnny?
Yeah, obviously Ronan Hill scored the last goal of the last season from his own half against Glentoran for Larne, and got Larne into Europe and then jumped ship to Cliftonville. And obviously he's going to be playing there with his brother again. Obviously the two linked up at Crusaders as well. And Ronan Hill, Ryan Curran, Joe Gormley, it's a formidable front line. I've also been told that Stevie Mallon's been unbelievable as well in the European games. I think he might be injured the last couple of pre-season games there, but again, he'll add to what they've got. And yeah, last season they just went on a wave. They sort of reminded me of Coleraine in the sort of last 3 or 4 years, just how they got on a crest of a wave and just never looked like getting beat. And the home form was brilliant. And yeah, they played us 6 times last season and won 5 of them. So look, they won the cup, won the League Cup. They got back into Europe and pushed Linfield all the way. And I'm sure Paddy and Cliftonville will be wanting to go again and get another good rattle at it. And Luke Turner stayed as well. Their fans loved him, and he good partnership with Johnny Addis there as well. And Fergie always said that defence wins you titles, and they've got a good back four as well with Levi Ives. So yeah, look, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tight for Cliftonville. They've probably got a marker now on the back of them because of how well they done last year. But Paddy's a good manager, and I'm sure they wouldn't have it any other way. So yeah, I would expect them to be up there again. Paul, it shows you how good they are going forward. They were able to let Paul and go to Larne as well. So yeah, no,
Yeah,
I still think they'll be in the way there absolutely.
yeah. No, you mentioned Paul O'Neill. I mean, I was surprised at that. I suppose obviously they're of full time football. Probably swung it for O'Neill there, but that was I was surprised. They're surprised to see that transfer happen. However, as you said, they've brought in some really good players. Wouldn't surprise me at all to see them pushing Linfield for the title again this year. Will they be able to do? Well, you see, again, yeah. Well, we'll come to Linfield again in a while. You have to wonder how fatigue will play into their and whenever they've played so many games already at the start of the season, so many big important games, will that affect them? Will that give Cliftonville a boost in terms of challenging for the title? Because obviously they not have played as many big games. I think Cliftonville will be the ones to watch again this year in terms of challengers. But yeah, Pat, as you say, Paddy's done a great job there at Cliftonville. Very highly rated manager. Another one, I suppose, as well as a manager, if you're looking towards somebody who's could potentially go across the water and manage elsewhere, he could be one. But anyway, we'll move on to your beloved Coleraine. I have to say, I'm very impressed by some of the business you've done this year up there. Lee Lynch in particular has been a very good signing.
Yeah, obviously Owen phoned me and said I had to go down to the showgrounds to announce the signing of Lee Lynch, and I was shocked. I can't believe we got him. He's so good. He's 30, but he runs around the pitch like a 20-year-old. Not only that, there I think Michael McCrudden, if you can get him fit and firing, just in behind the striker, I don't think there's too many better than him in the league. To be totally honest with you, Connor McDermott as well looks refigurated. Dean Jarvis won the league with Dundalk only a couple of years ago as well, so he signed really, really well. Evan McLaughlin is probably one that might not be fairly known to supporters in the Irish League, but I think he'll be the surprise package for us this year. I think he'll play a lot of games in the wing as well. Very quick, very direct, and can pick a pass, can cross as well. And obviously we signed Jack O'Mahony from Glenavon and Kieran Farn from Derby and Dean Brown, probably three guys that might not be household names, but again, all three of them have impressed in pre-season, especially Kieran Farn. He's very, very good with the ball at his feet at the centre half. And yeah, I suppose it's been probably a transitional period for Coleraine as well, because obviously Skinner's away, Ian Parkhill, sorry, and Curtis Allen's away. So sort of a change of the old or out with the old and in with the new. And Patrick Kelly went to West Ham as well, and he's flying with the under 23s by all accounts. So yeah, look, it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, we finished sixth last year. I think we're better than sixth, to be honest. We got the cup final, but we started really, really well. And then Linfield beat us at home in December time when the ball hit the referee. And after that, we just petered. A season petered out. To be honest with you, Cliftonville beat us in the two cups, deservedly so, and we never really got any chance of Europe. So it'd be very unlike a Northern Kearney team to have two bad seasons in a row. So I'm using that. I'm using every bit of straw grabbing there to hopefully we can turn it around.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I was sort of thought to myself the sixth was a bit of a false position for yourselves. You're Coleraine are a good side, and they've added well. I think Jack O'Mahony will do very, very well for Coleraine. Great wee player, very skillful. On his day, very, very good. Bit of pace about him, likes a wee dribble sometimes too. I think he'll do well. But yeah, as you say, you've lost some big names there as well. I suppose Curtis Allen, is renowned for, everyone knows what he does. But I suppose he's coming now towards the end of his career. Owen Bradley as well, going to Glenavon will be an interesting one. Well, again, we'll talk about that later. But no, I think Coleraine will do all right this year. Again, they'd probably be a team I'd expect to finish in the top six. I would near count them in, but I suppose that they'll be the team to catch for the likes of Glenavon and Ballymena this year.
Yeah, would agree with that. I still think our squad is just as good as Larne's and Crusaders, and even Cliftonville on its day. But it's just trying to get a consistent run of form and getting scoring goals. That was our Achilles heel last year. We started really well. We couldn't stop scoring, and then the goals just dried up, and we were conceding silly goals, which probably wasn't like us as well. But hopefully, as I mentioned, with the likes of McCrudden there and Evan McLaughlin and Lee Lynch, we can add more goals, especially from midfield, and as well. And it's so competitive. We've only mentioned 2 or 3 teams there, maybe even 4, and yeah, it's the top 6 always seems like locked in, but then you have the likes of Glenavon and Ballymena, as you say. So yeah, I think Coleraine, just knowing Orne as I do, he'll just be trying to take it one game at a time. I sound like a manager myself, but that's literally all it's going to be. Hopefully, we can just pick up. So be it. We have Cliftonville first game of the season as well, so we're due one against them. But we'll see how it goes.
I think everyone's due one against Cliftonville, to be honest. But yeah, Crusaders. What do I reckon about Crusaders this year? Because their business has been fairly. There's been more outs there than ins. A lot more outs than ins. There's only been 2 in, I think.
Yeah, and I necessarily don't. I necessarily don't think that's a bad thing either. I think if you're bringing in less players, it shows you've got a very settled squad there. So I don't think it's a bad thing that he's only brought in a couple of players. I genuinely have never seen either of them play. I don't know nothing about them. I was chatting to a fella from Crusaders at the league launch, and he says that McNabb sort of, because the Welsh league was a bit different, he's getting them time to bring him back up to speed as well. But they were probably the informed team at the end of the season. Them, Cliftonville and Linfield. They won the Irish Cup. They went through in Europe, had a great result against Basel, actually, in both legs, if you think about it. So they'll be going into the season as one of the informed teams. They've just won the Charity Shield as well with a good win against Linfield, although Linfield made 11 changes, but winning is a habit. And I think they're home to Dungannon in the first game of the season as well. So, yep, they will probably fancy their chances of going better. I think they should probably be, they had a really good sustained period of success in the Irish Cup. I think it was their first trophy maybe in 2 or 3 years. So they've got that winning formula back, and knowing Stephen Baxter and the players there and how they'll be wanting to add to that.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that at all. I mean, you'd expect them again to make the top 6. Looking at the squad they have, it's a very strong squad. The players who have left, I mean, Sean O'Neill obviously going to Ballymena. We've discussed that was a loan deal and that was always going to happen, I think. And then Aidan Wilson from Glentoran. But other than that, really, players who have dropped down to the lower division, so they haven't really lost that much, I don't think.
It's going to be weird seeing a Crusaders team without Declan Cadell right now. I think he hung the books up as well. But they kept Jordan Owens there too, and they've got Billy Joe Burns. I think he is better nearly every year. He's like a fine wine as well. And yeah, look, they've got good players. They didn't do as well in the last couple of seasons before last year as they could have done, and I expect them to be fully up there again. As I said, at the end of last season strong, won the Irish Cup, a few good results in Europe, won the Charity Shield, so they'll be all out trying to win. They will fancy themselves at trying to push Linfield like Cliftonville did.
Yeah. Next in our alphabetical look through the league is Dungannon Swifts. I don't really know what to make of Dungannon Swifts. They're probably one of those teams who could be in bother. They could be in bother this year. They might not be in bother this year. We just don't know. They've made a couple of decent signings. Michael Ruddy from Portadown is a great signing for them, I think. John Scott from Loughgall as well is a great young player. I've seen him play before. He's very, very good. And Brendan Barron on loan from Newry City. But I don't expect them to change much in terms of their style of play. They like playing a bit of football down at Steinmoor Park. Dean Shields had them playing or try to play football anyway. They play these goal kicks that annoy me sometimes as well. That are very, very short. And if it was managing my team, I would not be happy with them. But anyway, that's just my preference. But they were coming in as well off the back of the Women's Euros as well, which, despite how the results went for Northern Ireland were, they did very well to get to the tournament in the first place. So, yeah, I'm sure there'll be plenty of interest in how the Swifts get on off the back of that.
Yeah, of course. I think obviously just chatting in Northern Ireland for them to get there, as you say, it was like winning the tournament. Really, if you think about it, when them girls are a few of them are playing for the Glens and Crusaders and stuff, and yet they're coming up against England players playing for Barcelona and everything. So you need to take everything into context. And I think Kenny was right in what he says. Probably Northern Ireland were there probably 8 years before their path even thought about getting there. So, yep, getting there was a massive achievement. That experience will be worth their weight in gold for them and everybody else. And fair play to them. They didn't really overly disgrace themselves either. And I know a few of the girls are playing it. There's a couple of girls in there from Coleraine and Lauren Wade. She's just moved on to Reading as well. So I wish her the best of luck. And speaking of Dungannon, it's going to be weird going to Stanmore and seeing a 3G pitch. They've obviously going to get that in for the start of next season. And I think that'll suit them, obviously, with the way they play football. Sometimes they overplay it, but you try telling Dean Shields not to play that way. Brendan Barr's a good sign, and he will suit their style of play very well. Watched them in the Irish Cup final. Keeps the ball ticking nice and simple, and he'll be good in there alongside James Knowles and Ryan Mears. And yeah, they conceded too many goals last year. That was I think they conceded the most in the league. I think it was something like 86 goals or something like that. So I think that's where they'll be looking. They stop. Dylan King's back from a long-term injury. They've Declan Dunn there, who obviously joined in January, so he'll be there for he'll be more experienced. So yep, look, I think you mentioned it as well, and I wouldn't argue with you. I think their main hopes or aspirations for the season would be to avoid relegation and see where it takes them. I think Dara McBreen was injured maybe after Christmas time as well. He's a fantastic
Yeah,
talent as well.
really
So
good player.
if they can get him alive and kicking, who knows what they can do?
Yeah, Glenavon. What do you say?
Yeah,
What do you say about Glenavon?
yeah.
Um,
Well, from the outside looking in, Michael, I think they have to target top six in a cup run. I think that would be a fair assessment. I think Jack Malone's a good player from Derry. He just needs game time. Probably see with Michael Glenn as well, and Rory Brown. So and then obviously Skinner. So yeah, look, that's my own opinion. I think obviously losing the likes of James Singleton probably wasn't nice. He's been there for a long time, but yeah, Glenavon never an easy place to go, and that would be my aspirations. And I'd say you're probably around the same.
if we make the top six this year and go on a good cup run, that'll be a success for Glenavon this year. I think. You, the last few seasons we've sort of floated in around sixth, seventh place. You would like to see progress, but it's very, very hard to break into that sort of top four at the minute. I think even the top five is very difficult. So yeah, that would do. And if we could get ourselves to a cup final this year, that would be fantastic. I would love that. Even the League Cup, but in the League Cup hasn't really been a competition we've had a lot of success in this last fight. I can't even remember the last time we won it. And the Irish Cup, our performances in it in recent years, and we had two or three great years where we did really, really well. Won it in 2014, 2016. And in recent years, we've just had no luck in that competition at all. So that'll be very important for us. From a squad point of view, I think Gary's actually signed well. You look at the players we have lost. Yes, Annie Waterworth came in last year along with Mark Stafford and Mark, who else came in with him? Stafford,
Oh, hey.
Waterworth, and who? Hawkey. Yes, of course. How could fit Hawks? Hawks is the new club captain. How could I forget? But and obviously Hawk or Waterworth and Stafford have now gone, which is unfortunate. We've lost James Singleton to the Glens, which was a shock. And then you have we've brought in Jack Malone, who I've seen in pre-season, looks really, really good. We've brought in Rory Brown, who I think you're right, needs to just get more time playing. Rory or Owen Bradley as well has been very, very good in pre-season. Skinner's done really well. Scored quite a few goals in pre-season. Of course, pre-season doesn't count. It's all about what happens come Saturday. Keep an eye out, by the way, for Isaac Bird, who have signed from Portadown. Looks like a very good young player, can play in defence or midfield. So he'll be one to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, and who is it you saw first game of the season? Ballymena, you mentioned?
Ballymena away, we're up to the showgrounds.
Confident?
Yeah, I think yeah. I wouldn't leave the house if I wasn't. Put it like that.
And moving on to the Glens now, and it's a bit of a surprise they haven't signed 57 players, but I think it's just
They've come very close to it.
I think it's just seven, and two of them are, is it not two or three of them are goalkeepers? So, but no, they signed Danny Purkis, and he's obviously the forward of the Glenavon parish, and I think he'll do alongside even Ali Roy and James Singleton this year.
There's no doubt that Danny Purkis is a very good player, and there's no doubting that he knows where the net is. If he can keep his head right, he could be a very important player for Glentoran. If he doesn't get his head right for Glentoran, it'll not end well. As Glenavon found out. But their signs have been interesting, and I'm not really quite sure about what they've hoped to achieve by signing so many goalkeepers. Their transfer policy sometimes baffles me. But then what do I know, as McDermott would probably say. They've brought in Argy Rides, they've brought in Weber. They've decent goalkeepers there. They've already had a decent goalkeeper there. Ali Roy will be a good signing. Harry Murphy's an interesting one from Portadown. I think he's maybe one for the future rather than right now. And of course, James Singleton signing from Glenavon. Be interesting to see where they play him, whether they play him at left back, centre half, because or in midfield, because they're pretty much covered in all those positions. There's some very good players, the likes of Marcus Kane, for example. So I don't. For them, I think they have to be at the very least challenging for the title. I don't even know if challenging for the title is good enough for Glentoran at the minute. I think their fans want to see them winning that league this year. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on McDermott to deliver this year, I think. But the water off a duck's back to Mick, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think I tipped Glentoran to win the league last year. So that's probably why they didn't win it. But no, I think they've definitely got the best squad in the league in my opinion. You look at Conor McMillan, Jay Donnelly, Roy Donnelly, Purkis. Now they've got midfield. You've got Plum, you've got Clucas, Crow, and I think the big thing for them now is Marin, Keelan Marin. See what happens there. I think I'm led to believe that Keelan Marin's on the transfer list and probably won't play for the Glens again. So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. If I was Larne after losing Kofi Balmer, that's who I would probably be going for. But Glentoran, they have to go and try and win the league. 100% challenging isn't good enough probably for them and their fan base right now. I think you've nailed that one on the head as well. With the squad they have there, they should be challenging on all fronts, and I expect them to be there or thereabouts. They have to be with that squad and the goals and stuff are around the team. So yeah, I wouldn't overly argue with that, and it's still early in the transfer window.
Yeah, that's the thing. You're the amount of players they have at the minute, full-time players. Can they keep them all happy?
Yeah, that's it. Obviously Robbie McDade couldn't have been too happy if he went to Linfield. So yeah, the full time approach doesn't suit everybody, and that's where the likes of Corey and Cliftonville and Glenavon, even Ballymena, I suppose, they have to be the best of the rest in terms of part time teams and getting them players in. And yeah, it's probably proven to be harder. Stuff more players want to go and try the full time element. So, but yeah, I think Glentoran will be there or thereabouts. And another team I think will be there or thereabouts, but haven't really done as well as I think they should be doing it is Larne. And I suppose when I look at their ins and outs, it's sort of similar to Coleraine. They've got plenty in and plenty out. And I suppose when you start with the ends, we've mentioned Paul Noodle and Leroy Miller as well, but Daniel Kearns and Aaron Donnelly, two players from Cliftonville, and I really rate Aaron Donnelly. I think he's a good player. Play centre half, left back. Daniel Kearns, I think he flowers to deceive a wee bit, but again, on his day, he can be a stormer, can't he?
He can. We know him from his time at Glenavon. He, he was a great player. But as you say, when he's good, he's very good, and when if he doesn't appear, and if he doesn't put in a performance, you can tell. But yeah, as you say, they're a team. Sometimes you wonder. I think Larne have gone about the full time setup the right way. They've invested in the community. They've set up a good youth academy there. They've invested in their facilities. They've done everything right. From that point of view, the question for Larne, for me, is: are they a team who are quite happy to sit around third or fourth in the league? Probably fourth. It's probably third or fourth. They'll be sort of, if you imagine Linfield and Glentoran might be your top two, or Cliftonville, well then Larne will probably be sitting just on the outside of that as things stand. So fourth place is probably where they are, or where they're at. They'll want to get into the automatic European places. Do they want to go further and push for the title, or are they happy with that? Are they happy with just developing young talent and doing what they can? I don't know. I suppose if you're, the owner of a football club, you want to get something back for your investment. So,
Yeah.
For me, Larne are probably going to be that sort of the outsiders, but third or fourth might be the best they can hope for.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that. I think again, I think I wouldn't overly say they've a far better squad than Coleraine, for example, or Cliftonville. So I think it's all going to be very tight. I would love to know how they get on this year without big personalities. Obviously, they've lost Ronan Hill, they've lost Dean Jarvis, they've lost Lee Lynch, they've lost Davy McDade. Andrew Mitchell was an experienced head in there too. Probably even might be able to include Navin Naziri in there, and Connor Devlin. So they have lost a lot of experienced players and a lot of players who've been there for a large part of their journey. So could it be a transitional period for them? They also had a really, really poor result in Europe. So I think Tiernan Lynch will probably be under pressure to start off well as well. And one last question regarding Larne. Kofi Balmer then, the Crystal Palace looks as if it's going to happen. What do you think of that move? Personally, my own opinion, you're never going to turn a move like that down, but I think League One, maybe playing football at a men's level would have been maybe a better for his development.
Oh, totally. Yeah, yeah. I think if he's playing there at a sort of League One, even possibly even lower end of the Championship, because he's that good. He is a good player. At least if he's playing regular football, he has the chance of pushing on them, maybe playing international football as well regularly. I suppose being in the Crystal Palace squad, he's almost guaranteed a place in the Northern Ireland squad, given that we don't have that many, top or elite players, shall we say, at that level, the top level, the very top level. But it's better for him to be playing more regularly and getting noticed, and it could be hard for him to. You sort of wonder, where does he go from playing under, or maybe under 23s for Palace? Can he break into the first team? I don't know. Whereas, yes, as you say, if he's playing regular men's football, more chance of getting a move up the league. But yeah, like, good luck to him. Good luck to him. I think he's certainly good enough to make it over there. Whether that's at Palace, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, would agree. And moving on to the champions, then I'm feeling we briefly mentioned them there. Obviously, they were able to turn Joel Cooper and Chris McKay's loans in the permanent deal, able to bring back E2 for Tynan, and obviously Roy McDade and Daniel Finlayson as well. And 5 good signings for Linfield, and again, they must go into the season surely as favourites.
Yeah, I can't see anybody else beating them this year, to be honest. To the title, I can see them getting beaten, but I can't see them, dropping the title again. Joel Cooper, I mean, great player, great signing for them. McDade again, he knows where the net is. Vertainen's a great player too, from what I've seen of him. And McKay, I've only saw him play a couple of times, but to me, he looks like a very, very good player. They've done well. They've done well to keep those sort of, or bring those sort of players in. As we alluded to earlier on, we've got a decent manager there in David Healy. They've done well in Europe. The only concern I have with them is whether the amount of games they've played already will hamper them in any way, but they have a big enough squad there, I think, that they could probably absorb that. So it'll be interesting to see if, should they make it to the group stages, how that'll affect them, having to play Thursday, Sunday on a regular basis. Just on that, I mean, I think it was a bit stupid. Linfield having to play in that Charlie Shield on, or Saturday past there, the way it was timed. So soon after Linfield had played in Europe on the Thursday night. But I think the Linfield one's going to be an interesting one to watch this year in terms of how they do and still competing in Europe as well.
Yeah, I think physically it would be tough for them, but maybe even mentally too. Like for example, going to like a Kazakhstan on a Thursday and then coming back and going to Warren Point even on a Sunday. I think just how different mentalities and stuff like that. So that could be a challenge for them. But yeah, look, I think it'd be great for the league if they did get in. I know a lot of people say about money and everything, but sure they're loaded anyway, so it
Yeah,
wouldn't really make a difference. It would put the Irish League on the map as well. I don't think they'll have a better chance. I think they're seeded as well for the draw. I think it's the Maltese team or is it a Luxembourg team they have to beat
yeah,
over the two legs. So I think they'll be all right. And speaking of Joe Cooper, I was going up the road on Wednesday for the league launch there, and we were chatting about the left wingers in the Irish League. I've never seen the league such a talented with left-sided players: Peter Campbell, Conor McMenamin, Joe Cooper, Jamie Glacken, Ben Doherty. The list goes on. There's probably a few. Paul Heatley. I could probably go on and on and on. And what is it with left wingers in the Irish League? There's plenty of quality.
don't know. I mean, all I can say is up the lefties. Boys like me with the natural left foot. Who obviously got a bit of talent about them, like myself. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, you mentioned Peter Campbell there. I mean, what a season he had last year. Obviously attracted a lot of interest, but just doesn't want to win the full time football, which suits Glenavon perfectly fine. And if he can replicate that for him this season, then what a season we could have. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned Glacken there again. I've been an admirer of Glacken for a while. Good player. Yeah, right. The left side in the Irish League, you could pick a team of left-sided players, and it'd be very, very good. So, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Moving on then to Newry City, who just been promoted, and like every team that's just been promoted, they're probably one of the favourites for relegation. And they brought in two or three players as well. Maybe not household names, but they'll be hoping they make Newry a tough place to go. In their bid, they survive.
Yeah, I mean, I think Newry deserve. I suppose it's always mentioned anytime Newry are promoted. It was the last time. The job that has been done at Newry City is incredible. That club was out of existence. What was it, 10 years ago, near enough?
Yeah.
Um, and have come back. They've fought their way through the Ulster League. They've got themselves through the league ladder, and now they're back in the Premiership once again. And a very welcome addition they are to the league. They've got a good fan base down there. They're a good club. They're well run these days. Good facilities down there too. And it'll be good to see them sort of push on and maybe consolidate their position in the league. Will they be able to do it? I'm not sure. I think between themselves and Portadown, they could be the two teams that will be fighting for that sort of fighting to stay up, basically. But they could probably prove everybody wrong. They come in almost as an unknown quantity. The championship last year was an interesting one because you had obviously Annie United as well, who were fighting for that sort of top spot. Loughgall always give you a good fight as well whenever it comes to pushing for promotion. But Newry know what it's about to come up and know how to get up because they've done it a couple of times now. And but I suppose for them now the next stage of that project is now staying in the division. So do you know who they start off against this year? I can't remember.
They are home to Carrick Rangers.
That'll be an interesting one actually because that's a game that they, especially a home game, that'll be one they'll be looking to try and get points from. So if they can do that, that'll give them a very good start to the season.
Yeah, of course. I think the last time they were up, they can see that have a lot of goals late on and lost a lot of points. So I think Larne and the players down there will be hoping they eradicate that as well. So yeah, never an easy place to go, and they probably will go in as relegation favourites just because they were promoted. But they've got a couple of young players there who everyone seems they rant and rave about, and John McGovern and Noel Healy, and those are probably two boys they'll be looking towards to try and ease them away from relegation.
Yeah. And then Portadown are the other ones who, well, I wouldn't say I'm concerned about, but if you were a Portadown fan, you'd be concerned, especially given some of the results they've had in pre-season. They were beaten by Donaldstown. Who else? They had another big defeat there in pre-season there just the other week. I'm trying to remember who it was, but yeah, things just don't look too good at Portadown at the minute. What are your own thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I looked at the ins and outs the other day, and it's like something like a football manager. The amount of ins and outs of that football club, and they really, really do need stability now. It's one of them things where he needs to go with the players that he has there, and see if he can keep them in the league. They were probably lucky to stay up last year. I think if Warren Point didn't have that bad start, they probably would have went down as well. And he has signed a few. Obviously, Jordan Jenkins has come in. He needs games, and the rest of the players I've never heard of. As they got, I know Lee Upton was a good centre half at Anna as well, but again, they've lost like Sir George Tipton and Michael Ruddy and Greg Hall, Nathan Kerr, as well. So they've lost a few of their more experienced players too. But yeah, pre-season, Man United beat Liverpool 4-0 in pre-season, then lost to Brighton the other day. So yeah, I don't think you can read too much in there, but they could really do hit the ground running. I think they've Linfield first game. I think their start of the season is horrendous. I think they've Linfield, Cliftonville, Crusaders, Cliftonville. They've all of them in the first 6 games. So yeah, they'll be looking to pick up points as quick as they can. But I just don't know how the influx of players all the time in and out. I just don't know how that's sustainable.
No, you mentioned that start of the season they have. You're if you go into maybe you lose your first 3 or 4 games of the season, you've got that mentality in your head. The pressure builds on you to win matches, and sometimes that can count against you. So the cards that Portadown have been built or dealt in that regard don't help them at all. But they've brought Alberto Baldi coming back home from Middlesbrough is a good signing for them. JJ, you've mentioned Jordan Jenkins from Glentoran. Well, we'll see what happens there. I mean, he was at Glenavon for long enough. I was surprised when he made the move to Glentoran. He seems to have done all right at under 23 level. Whether he'll be able to do it in the top flight with a Portadown team who, creating chances hasn't been exactly one of the things they've been very strong at over the last year or two. I'm not really sure how he's going to do there. And then, as you say, the rest of them, I'm not really sure who they are. Lee Upton did very well at Anna United, I know that. And in fact, was probably one of the better players in that playoff they had against Portadown at the end of the season to see who was coming up. But your comparison to Football Manager is very apt. Didn't they sign a player off LinkedIn or something like that as well, Portadown?
I heard that. So yeah, but yeah, they'll be hoping they carry on. Obviously they did a good playoff one against Anna and take that into the season, but it's going to be tight for them this year. I think them, Dungannon and Newry will be the three looking to avoid relegation. I don't see anybody else to be perfectly honest. And Paul Dillon, he just needs to get no injuries, no suspensions, and try and kick on as best they can.
Yeah. So, in conclusion, we're saying Linfield for the title.
I think Linfield will win the league. I think their nearest challengers will be Glentoran, Cliftonville, and Crusaders. I think I think Coleraine will be up there too. I don't want to put a position on them because I don't want to give them the blank. I think Glenavon will finish 8th. Sorry, Michael. I think Ballymena will just edge in front. I think that's always a wee battle between these two. I think Ballymena is one, and I think Portadown will finish last, and Newry will be in the playoff. I think Dungannon will get out the skin of their teeth.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Linfield champions. I'm gonna go Cliftonville runners up again. Glentoran third, and then I'm gonna go for yourselves fourth. I'm gonna go Coleraine fourth, Larne fifth, Crusaders sixth. Did I mention Crusaders? I haven't. Sure, I haven't. I'll go for them sixth. I'm gonna put us seventh because I'm optimistic and I'm always optimistic. But I would not be surprised if we finished 8th and Ballymena takes 7th. So I'll go Glenavon, stroke Ballymena 7th and 8th, and then 9th Carrick, 10th Dungannon, and then I'm gonna go Portadown to get to the playoffs, and Newry relegated automatically in 12th. But we'll see how it pans out. It's going to be an exciting season anyway. I'm really looking forward to it, to see how it all sort of pans out.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I think obviously Irish League, it is what it is. It's blood and thunder and everything else, and no prima donnas, and I'm just looking forward to getting back at it. I think the attendances are going to be up all over as well, and everyone's looking forward to it. I think the two cups as well. I'll probably go for. I'll go Crusaders to win the League Cup, and I will go for who's due an Irish Cup. Well, Cliftonville are definitely due one. I'll go for Cliftonville. They're bound to win it sometime. I'll go for them. They won the Irish Cup. I'll go for a cup double for North Belfast.
I'll go Cliftonville for the League Cup, and I'll go. I'm going to go for us for the Irish Cup.
Glenavon for the Irish
I'll
Cup.
go Glenavon for the Irish Cup because I think that's something that we will be targeting this year. I think the league. We're not going to win the league. We will know early on whether or not 7th is attainable. I think the Irish Cup's the one for us this year.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Who knows? You'll be a happy man in May, hopefully.
I hope so. We European trip as well. I'll not tell the wife about that yet.
No. Just you can just sneak it into the conversation. Here, love, I'm away to Albania or somewhere.
Aye, way to Kazakhstan. See you later.
Well, folks, many thanks for listening in. Hopefully, that'll keep you entertained and looking forward to the season ahead. Obviously, keep an eye on the papers and the websites for all your match reports and interviews along the season. It's expected to be a wild one as it always is, and here's hoping that everyone can get the games nice and safely and yeah, plenty of excitement and banter, I'm sure, and yeah, I think Coleraine play Glenavon on the 26th of August, Michael. So you can have a nice trip up the north coast on a
I
Friday
think
night.
I'm staying up that night, so maybe get a few jars afterwards.
Aye, hopefully with a Korean one, of course. But no, many thanks, folks, for tuning in and take care. Thank you.
All the best.